Cool.
Hey, welcome to Plopcast number 10, everyone. So exciting.
Hey.
Today on the show, we have D-Dawg, D-Dawg Darren, we have T-Bone, and we also have Captain Kirk as well as me.
Hey, guys.
The most beautimous comic book girl named Teen. And we're here to talk about... I did. I told you, I'm a wizard today. I can do whatever I want.
Arrogant lately.
Shit's fucking
magic. I've been so beaten down. Let me just have this moment. So we're gonna start with Agents of SHIELD. We're gonna talk a little bit about that. Not a whole lot because we did a raw vlog on it, but yeah. Then we're gonna get into some Inhumans business. Talk about some weird stuff that's going on at Marvel with the Inhumans.
Wait, don't you mean mutants?
We'll get to that, Kirk.
Okay.
Legal.
We're going to touch on Young Avengers, Battle of the Atom. Also, we're going to talk about Silver Surfer Parable that was just re-released by Marvel. Excellent. Then we're going to go to the indie side of things, where we're going to talk about The Wake. We're going to talk about Sex Criminals.
Sex Criminals!
Legacy.
We're going to talk about the first time we've ever talked about sex criminals.
We're going to talk about them
on the show.
and we might touch on Next Testament, East of West, Saga, Catalyst. We'll just see what we get to.
Keeping you guys updated.
We'll tell you what
We're gonna
issues
talk about
they
sex
are.
Criminals today.
Yes. It's my favorite subject.
It's a very important subject, near and dear to my heart. Sex criminals.
So, without further ado, let's get started. Let's talk about Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Kirk, you started off. Tell us how you felt about Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Okay, Rob Log aside, there were some serious nerd moments for me. Mm-hmm. Anyone who was a regular Joss Whedon Day player or regular Joss Whedon actor really shined on the show.
Definitely.
Really shined. I'm really glad to have the Preacher back from
Book.
Firefly.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Book's back in it. Like I said, there was a couple of people there from Angel who really shined. Mm-hmm. And I had a full-on nerd moment when they go into the SHIELD helicarrier light.
Yeah,
it's like the Bud Light
of what we can afford on the television.
Exactly. So the airplane. We're basically just gonna say airplane, but that's the old Firefly set.
Yeah.
And I had a full-on nerd moment. That was really cool, and I kind of like the fact that they were able to kind of keep that set and do something really fun with that. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That said and done, I'm really unimpressed with the main cast.
Yeah.
I love the writing. I love Coulson. I love the concept, and I hope it really takes off. But
we'll see.
I'm not sold on these people.
Well, Darren.
I just know I rushed home to see it, and I was like, why?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I don't want to give the impression I thought it was horrible, because it wasn't.
Right.
And I know for a fact that a show can really rise above its pilot.
In first episode.
Because sometimes there's great pilots, and then the show's horrible.
Yeah.
Like Studio 360, the Aaron Sorkin thing, had like one of the best pilots I've ever seen.
And then that show
the
just
was
fizzled.
horrible.
I remember that.
Here's my problems. Here's what I liked about the show. I liked that the show actually subverted my expectations about what it was going to be about.
Mm-hmm. Right.
What do you think it was going to be about?
I thought it was going to be a little. It's a lot darker than I thought it was going to be about. Mm-hmm. In other words, the very introduction of Agent Coulson, in a way, creates a much darker show.
Yeah.
Because they're basically saying, we lied to the Avengers.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty much.
This guy was never dead. But I also am not so sure that that's really Agent Coulson.
Yeah.
I think he might be a clone.
Life
model decoy, because he remembers waking up in a hut.
Yeah.
That's all he remembers. He's also not the same Agent Coulson. He's not as nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So automatically it was a much more cynical show than
That's the only part of it that I really liked. That I was like, the Agent Coulson mystery. Why don't they just focus?
And that's what I'm saying. And that's what I liked about it.
I think that might be the mystery for the first season.
Yeah.
I think the first season is the big reveal of why and how.
My problem with the show was mainly the casting.
Thank you.
And I liked Ming-Na Wen. Like, why didn't they have more of her? Mm-hmm. Clark Gregg, who plays Agent Coulson.
Totally.
Like, to me, they're like, these guys are Shakespearean actors, and it's like they're acting in Battlestar Galactica level acting, which I always thought was really high.
Oh, yeah.
And
Definitely.
then it seems like all the new characters that were introduced, like the hacker girl who lives in a van that has this perfectly feathered hair, and the assassin agent who looks like he's 15.
You need to mention that Darren has not even seen our vlog on it. He just happens
Right.
to have the same.
We were just talking about that. Yeah.
No, guys, I haven't. I swear to God, because I don't. Do I have a computer? I don't know. I don't have one here. But my main problem was honestly with the casting, and I really didn't believe the girl in the van.
Yeah.
The girl in the van with the lines.
And per Joss casting, she is the pretty hot thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, but she should have had a different type of role.
Like,
definitely.
Or definitely a different look, a different vibe, you know? She was very, like, mall girl. She's
like, oh my god, you have powers, and you should come into my van. It's like, I just don't believe she stays in her van all the time. I just don't believe it.
Don't tell me she's a hacker. She really is playing kind of like the internet groupie.
Yeah.
Totally.
Like, yeah, that's like what
to me,
she was
any one of the supposed geek characters could have played that part.
Yeah.
And it would have been more believable.
Well, this is my thing, you know, and a lot of people, after watching my Raw vlog, were, like, accusing me, like, pretty girls can do stuff. Look, motherfucker, you guys are 40-year-old men telling a pretty girl this. I'm a pretty girl, and I'm telling you, it's really a lot of work to make your hair look like that, and you cannot live in a van and have your hair look like that and your fucking makeup. Like, you can't.
Everybody knows that everybody knows that everyone can do anything. They really believe in it. But it's not believable that a hacker who spends now let's just imagine this, a hacker who spends the majority of their time in dim lighting or fluorescent lighting in a van is going to spend that much time on her hair. Yeah. It's just that's not believable.
or her
you guys want to say well, hackers can, take care of their hair? He goes, but that doesn't fit with an obsessive personality. An obsessive personality wouldn't be worrying about
this was the girl that was like, I have a Twitter account, so I'm totally a hacker, okay?
Yeah. Like, how come I could totally hack your
Like, if you've seen my Tumblr, I know shit. All right?
And I don't blame... And another thing is, nobody's saying pretty girls can't do anything. Anybody can do anything if they believe in it. God bless you. It's a Disney movie. That's not what this is about. It's about when you cast a part, you want the person to be something that people will look at and go, yeah, okay, I buy that.
Yeah. And
willing suspension of disbelief. It goes way back. I didn't buy it.
Yeah, no, definitely not.
But that said, the show, in and of itself, I liked the darker tone of the show. Mm-hmm. I do think, because of HD, that the show looks really cheap.
Yeah,
and like HD has really been bad for TV.
It really has.
Because if you're trying to they need to shoot it in a grittier texture. They need to shoot it more like Battlestar Galactica.
It looks so polished. It looks so overly polished. It looks fake.
About it looking cheap is the aesthetic of all TV. It looks the same now.
Yeah,
but it looks too. It looks. In other words, when you see a van, he needs to pull it back. So when you see a van, when you see a van pull up with SHIELD written on the side of it, it shouldn't make you think that looks really stupid. Well, right? Like you shouldn't feel that.
Well, here's something that we were talking about a little bit earlier was what bothers me a lot is not only that, but they don't ever have the SHIELD uniforms, and I feel like they don't put the SHIELD uniforms on because they're a shame.
What was the term you guys used?
It's comic shame.
There you go.
Shame.
Now, here it is. How much money have we spent on these superhero films?
Yeah, making them believable.
How much money have we spent going to see guys in spandex?
Yeah, how much money has been made?
How many fucking SHIELD uniforms did they make already that they already have that they could probably fucking use?
Let me tell you, I had a buddy who worked on Starship Troopers, and they've been using those uniforms. They've been using those uniforms for over 15 years in other movies. Yeah. I'm just saying that they made all these SHIELD uniforms, and then it's like,
well, we can't do that for television.
We can't show SHIELD uniforms for television.
What the?
It doesn't make any sense. Again, it's producing. It's bad producing.
Let me tell you. So when the tobacco and firearms people show up at your house, they've got that stupid jacket on.
Yeah.
Right? Why can't SHIELD have a stupid uniform?
Like, put them in the fucking stupid uniform. Now, here's another thing that we were talking about.
Your last thing about that.
Well, this is the thing that we were talking about earlier is how SHIELD deals with a lot of mutant problems in the comic books.
Yes.
And how they cannot use mutant because they don't own the rights because Fox owns the rights to mutants. So who are they going to...
so funny.
We've got the lockdown on mutants, man.
So...
What about muties?
So we have to... What are they going to do to not have mutants, and what are they going to have instead? And this is something that you, Kirk, were noticing in the comics, and a possible step around the mutant problem that they're having with having people with powers.
But I did think it. I thought it before you said it.
Darren also was onto this, everyone.
Yeah.
So, but
I think a lot of people who listen to the show were kind of getting ready for this.
Yeah.
Is that they had to talk about maybe getting around the idea of using the word mutants for the Marvel Universe that's owned by Disney. And, maybe we're going to address it as, well, it's the M word. And the M word is very derogatory.
Yeah, so
you're not allowed to say the M word. You actually say, you don't use the M word around me.
Yeah.
But
some new name.
in Infinity, we're starting to watch a lot of Inhuman action happen.
Yeah.
So maybe we were not going to have to use the word mutant anymore.
Well, in a way, I really like the concept of the Inhumans more than the mutant
idea.
Well,
tell people who are not familiar with the Inhumans, who are the Inhumans, and how are they similar to the X-Men? Or the mutants?
Well, the Inhumans are, they're a race of people. And they were started back in the 60s when Kirby and Stan Lee were doing the Fantastic Four. They were basically a fully fleshed out idea that Jack Kirby had. Yeah. That he brought to this. But basically, over time, they are sort of an offshoot race of the Kree Empire.
Who are also human. They're like, the Kree Empire took human, I don't know.
Right. Basically, if you take all the alien species of the universe and put them together, there is some relation or beginning in human beings. But the thing that sets Inhumans apart is when they reach the age of, not manhood or what is it?
Like
when they get to the bar mitzvah age, when they get to like when they get to it goes, Saul, you're a good son. Before you say your prayers, or not prayers, whatever. Before you say your things.
Wait, do they pray? I don't know.
No. But the Inhumans basically go through a rite of passage, and they enter this thing called the Terrigen Mist, and the Terrigen Mist unlocks a code within their genetics.
Their potential.
Yes, that turns them into something else. They could turn into a creature with scales covering their body, and have completely useless powers, or they could become something else.
Well, they can turn out like Black Bolt, who can't speak because his voice is so powerful, and he can destroy things with his voice. I mean, there's all sorts of weird.
There could be some drawbacks. There could be some cool things.
Yeah, so in a way, it really is the mutant idea. But what I like about it is you have to make a choice.
Yeah,
it's a societal ritual. And it's basically, if you choose not to go through the Terrigen Mist, you're going against thousands of years of tradition. Yeah. And that's what binds the Inhumans together, is the mutation they have.
Yeah, and the fact they choose it, no matter what,
Yeah, and so they make a choice to go through the Terrigen Mist. And in a way, that's very much like the mutant.
And the mists have been around for a little bit. Like, this isn't some new idea, especially back when Bendis was writing the House of M. Yeah. And there was M-Day. And then you had Quicksilver, who lost his powers. He actually went through the mist to get his powers back, but then there was also a drawback.
They were a changed power.
Yeah. Yeah, so this isn't a brand new concept.
This goes further back, to there's a great book for anybody who hasn't read it. It was put out in like 1999, 2000, written by Paul Jenkins, the fabulous writer of Deathmatch. And
thank you for Deathmatch, by the way.
And drawn by Jay Lee, who's now a huge superstar. And it's basically Game of Thrones. Right. It's like Game of Thrones meets the Marvel Universe.
Right. Yeah, meets mutants, essentially.
Yeah. But there's a lot of stuff in there that's really great. They really go into the society and they follow a lot of the young kids, like, before they get their powers, and like, what do they think about? What do they worry about? Yeah. All that kind of stuff. It's an excellent story.
What's the name of it? What did you say?
It's just called Inhumans.
Oh, okay.
And
I'm actually looking at it right now because
it just came out as they just re-released it as a hardcover.
Perfect. Well, go buy it, assholes.
It was a 12-issue. Yeah, it was a 12-issue series, and to me, it's basically where, to me, they're
the modernized.
Well, they're going to have a series called Inhumanity,
and that's going to be the follow-up to Infinity.
To me, it's taking the cue from. Yeah. I think Hickman was inspired by this Inhumans miniseries, and that's why they're reprinting it.
But this also brings up the idea again that, like, now maybe Marvel doesn't have to deal with the mutants problem anymore.
Yeah,
bingo.
Which I love making that joke. We've already talked about the mutant problem,
the mutant problem
situation. What are we gonna do about those M words?
Always have some fucking problem, even in real life. Like, they always have some fucking problem they got to deal with.
So I like the fact that this is a really creative way where maybe we start seeing the term Inhuman being thrown around a lot more in the Marvel movies.
It's a good way to subvert that legal prohibition from using this.
And they already own it. I mean, it's perfect.
Yeah, and then maybe, Fox will finally just give up their rights already.
Here's what I think's gonna. Here's what I'm gonna future cast a little bit.
Oh, I love.
Here's what I think's gonna happen: the Inhumans, as we know it in the Infinity miniseries going on right now, they've always had a sort of a mobile home that they move.
Yeah, they don't live on Earth. They kind of do, but they live in their own weird little place, like whether it's on the moon or in this weird little Attilan or
it's Attilan.
I don't know.
Here's what I think's going to happen.
I
think that the Inhumans are going to be dispersed all throughout humanity, and that the Terrigen Mist is going to cover the Earth.
Everybody gets it?
Yes, I think what's going to happen... This is just me guessing.
Right.
But I think that the Terrigen Mist is literally going to be like a bomb going off, and it's going to disperse all over people on Earth, and then we're going to have tons of Inhumans popping up all the time.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, no. Inhumans.
Yeah.
No, but I mean, that's what I think's going to happen.
Right.
I mean, Mark, maybe I'm wrong.
But then again, you're going back to that whole problem that they were having earlier where everyone was a mutant. So then are they going to have another M-Day thing, but but
to me, that was never a problem.
Well, it wasn't.
To me, that was never a problem. To me, the whole idea of no more mutants was always angering to me. Because I think that Grant Morrison made the paradigm shift of going... everyone is eventually going to be a mutant. So then what kind of storytelling ideas do you come from that?
And you take that away.
I think Marvel retreated from the huge possibilities that Grant Morrison
I know, they always do that with Grant Morrison. It's like he always gives you so much weird shit that you can do with it, and then they always puss out and go and kill off all the cool characters. Where the fuck is the Beak at, huh? Where's the Beak?
Where's the Beak? I don't know.
He's hanging out with Mudbug.
Yeah, I know, right?
There we
go.
But
the point is that they keep you can't keep a good idea down. And Joss Whedon came and took a lot from the Grant Morrison run. Yeah.
See, I love that Hickman and Whedon, and even Remender to a certain extent, where every other writer was like, I don't know what to do with this. He turned the mutants into rock stars.
Yeah.
Morrison made the X-Men really cool.
Yeah.
Even if you were such a fan before, you suddenly kind of went,
it's a whole new level.
I have a new idea of who the X-Men are.
Well, I feel like it's the modern...
He's a good futurist. He extrapolates on the idea of a mutation developing into the prominent gene pool.
Which is that is evolution.
That would happen, because the stronger species would be the one that would
totally.
survive.
And I love that the good writers went, no, Marvel, don't put this idea away yet. Don't shelve it. Don't call it just a... I love that Whedon and all these guys borrowed so much from that.
And that's why I'm saying, quality does win out in the long run.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, let's move on to Battle of the Atoms to talk about the X-Men. We're on chapter number 5, which is Wolverine and the X-Men number 36. It sounds a little confusing, but I swear it's not that bad.
But kudos to Marvel for...
chapter things on it.
I was going to say kudos to Marvel for doing that the right way.
But yeah, Battle of the Atom is still fucking rocking it. Still super awesome.
I'm really enjoying it.
It's and now it's getting even crazier because you have... Okay, so you have the original X-Men that are brought forward in time. Now you have these future X-Men who may or may not be telling the truth, who are now in the present day. And now you have Magic taking people to the future where the future X-Men are supposed to be from, but now it's different, and there's an alternative future timeline X-Men.
Somebody's lying.
Oh my god.
Somebody's lying.
Like I said...
So good.
I don't trust grandson Xavier.
I don't.
Trust
Nobody
him.
does. Not one person has been like, I trust that man.
Here's the thing about time travel. Every time you time travel, you create a new reality. You can't undo it. So even if they take them back,
it's too late.
Things have already been changed.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think if I'm not mistaken, Brian Michael Bendis, who's now the mastermind of pretty much all the X-Men stuff, and I think he's doing great.
Yes.
Right.
I think he's playing with that. I think he's literally going, guys, we've been time traveling so much
that it's fucked
for so many years. It's like, let's deal with the consequences.
Yeah.
And we've already talked about it before, and I want to bring it up again.
Yeah.
Just about every Marvel title is playing with the idea of time travel right now.
Yeah.
It's happening in Indestructible Hulk. It's happening in Guardians of the Galaxy. It's already happening in everything.
Oh, gee, what's the new X-Men movie that's going to be coming out?
Yeah,
Age of Ultron?
Days of Futures Past.
Oh, the X-Men thing. I'm thinking about Avengers.
The time travel,
right.
The ultimate time travel story on which all other X-Men and Marvel Universe time travel stories are born.
Oh.
Well, so, yeah, Battle of the Atom, killing it.
Now, that's an interesting thing. I mean, let's admit it. Fox and Marvel are in competition with each other.
Oh, yeah.
Do you think Fox is doing the Days of the Future Past thing?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that's why Marvel was like, well, screw you guys. We're going to do our time travel thing because we still write the freaking comics. And that's why we're giving you Age of Ultron.
Is it confirmed, though, that the Ultron is going to be a time traveling thing
they
like
said
the comic? Or...
that it's the only familiar thing is in name.
I don't believe anything they say.
Yeah.
And I don't think anybody else should.
No.
Okay.
They'll say anything
if
to get
you've known
you
anything about Joss Whedon and the way he works rumors and has for years...
He lies.
He lies on purpose because he knows we want him to.
Yeah.
Well, he's misdirecting, you know.
No, I don't believe... I do believe they're doing this time travel stuff to lead into the X-Men movie. I don't think they're trying to subvert or that X-Men movie. They still have a vested interest in
absolutely,
it doing well.
But
yeah.
I just think that Brian Michael Bendis basically, I feel, because this is what he always does when he comes to a book, is he looks at it big picture, just like Grant Morrison does. Looks at it big picture and goes, "What's the hole here? What's the thing they're not dealing with?" And the time travel thing is something that they just do so much in X-Men, and they never deal with it.
Yeah, they never have consequences for these actions, like serious
I personally don't even think, after this story's over, that the X-Men from the 60s are going to be the main characters in the book anymore.
Yeah.
That's an interesting idea.
I think it's going to be a whole new group of X-Men.
And the thing is, I'm okay with
Maybe Jean Grey will stay.
Who knows?
Maybe the rest of them will go.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Zorn, Jean Grey,
can it be
the
way, really awesome. Hot, wrapped in chains, Lady Zorn Green?
Man, I want to make that fucking costume.
You think that's hot?
I really do. I totally do. I don't know why.
I'll take Dark Phoenix any day.
Well, I like the fact that, people like Zorn's helmet is made to contain the power of a star, right?
And a dwarf star.
Dwarf star. So Jean Grey is saying that she's so fucking powerful.
That she
is
needs
as powerful as a fucking star.
I just thought she was wearing the helmet so that they wouldn't see her face.
See, because she's like, I gotta put the mask back on because she said she can't keep it off for more than like 5 minutes or something because like shit.
Well, the thing that Grant Morrison played with that they're bringing up again is that Jean Grey was always the Phoenix.
Yeah. It always.
That's very different from what Claremont did.
Right.
Like back in the
It was.
In other words, that her connection to the Phoenix was always going to be and always was going to happen.
Now though you have they're possibly saying that there is a grown-up Kid Omega Phoenix in the alternate timeline of future X-Men.
We've seen this before, and I'm pretty stoked about it.
Oh my god.
I'm stoked about this kind of stuff. I like it.
I do too. Like, it's so much fun. That's what I love about the X-Men is like there's so much fun. They all fucking hook up. They all have like kids from the future that are weird with mixed powers. Like, that's
what I think Bendis is bringing back to the universe, and I think Remender as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They're bringing back that sense of like the soap opera-y fun
That's
of
my
the X-Men,
favorite part.
which is when Claremont and Byrne were doing it.
I was gonna say that when Claremont was doing it, and the X-Men was going, it was a bi-weekly title for a while.
Yeah.
And it used to be like these serial issues you would get were like 3 or 4 issues, and like you said, the soft story.
Yeah.
And we would see the drama of watching the X-Men and the relationships. Well, and then it would all lead into like a bigger like action-packed story.
Yeah.
But what weakened the book after a while was then a million other creators coming in.
Right.
And like this one, Bendis is basically writing the top 2 titles.
Yeah. And that makes sense.
It adds more cohesiveness to everything.
Yeah, and I'm okay with it. Like,
Bendis has perfected it somehow.
Yeah.
Something that I didn't think was possible.
Good for you, Bendis.
We like you, Bendis.
Keep doing it.
Bendis is awesome.
Well, also on the awesome front, Young Avengers, still killing it. I know I keep talking about it, but I'm not going to stop until everyone's reading it. It's the only Avengers title I read, to be honest. It's fantastic. And, Darren may or may not have turned me on to Phonogram, which are the creators or the people who are doing Young Avengers also did Phonogram beforehand. And that's
have you talked about Phonogram?
No, I haven't.
I talk about it
But that's the thing. I don't want to talk about it because you guys talk about it so much better than I do that it's like there's no
Kirk,
point
talk about Phonogram for like 5 seconds.
Music is magic. Phonogram is basically Hellblazer meets High Fidelity, and I fucking love it.
Yes, exactly.
It was just an original title by the same creative team that does Young Avengers, Gillian and McKelvey. It was so, like, you could tell it was 2 good friends coming up with a great idea and working on it in the weekends over beers.
And it's basically a story. They use Britpop, right? The main character is powered by Britpop.
Yeah. And the thing is, in the Young Avengers, you can see that they've only gotten better. We're on issue 10, and the drawing is so much not that it was bad before, but you can tell there's like such a big difference in his like art
working
now.
with Mike
so much
Norton.
good. Oh, it's so good. I can't even stand it.
And one of the things I keep going back to Young Avengers, and I want people to pick up comics for this reason, is that they have gotten so creative and outside the box on how they present the idea of what a comic is.
Yeah.
I love the fact that the main
they really play with it.
Antagonist right now is playing with, like, the boxes that the
different
scenes,
alternative universe
the scenes are being drawn in, and she's taking, like, the color commentary and, like, the thought bubbles and eating it.
Yeah.
Like, and they're like, oh god! And they're like, oh no, she spotted us. And
she's
and
like
the thought,
above reality, beyond reality. Ugh.
Yes, this is like great. This is like the Grant Morrison who did Animal Man.
A little bit.
Done, like, just gone to the nth degree.
Yeah.
Like,
And Kid Loki is so good.
I fell behind, guys. I admit, I fell behind.
It's okay. You get the trade paperback.
I love these guys.
Everyone get the trade paperback. And the attention of detail is what I really enjoy. Like, they have Leah of Hell, right? Is it Leah or Lee? I don't know which way to pronounce it. But anyways, she's got this dress on, and they really designed it, and it has all these, like, really nice, like, it's very well designed dress. Okay, like, it's got all these different hemlines that are fantastic.
Always has been, though.
But he, like, took it and made it look like something that somebody would wear now, and it looks good, and it looks, you know. And then her makeup, she has, like, those little, you know, like, decision to give her, like, little eye wings.
That attention to detail is what they've used this artist doing a million album covers.
Yeah.
Precisely because
I was just going to say, because McKelvey, right after Phonogram came out, he did his own title, and it was a 4-issue miniseries called Suburban Glamour. And it was a really great, sweet idea about how, you know, you always think there's something special about you, and then one day you find out there is something really special about you. And this girl discovers that she is the queen of this other realm.
Did you read the second volume of Phonogram?
Yes, I did. The singles collection.
It's, like, totally different than the original volume.
See, I still got to read that
great.
one.
You have to read it one. It's really great because it's, like, 6 issues, but each one's a different person
story
in the club.
Yeah. I love that.
On
I love
the same
stuff
night.
like that. I love stuff
and
like that.
Going back to Suburban Glamour really quickly, every character is so intricately detailed and designed, and in such a nice, fresh, modern way.
I know, and they always, modern.
Like, there's, like, one character is like a rockabilly girl with, like, 3/4 sleeves, and she's always rocking creepers for shoe wear.
Yeah,
and it was that type of detail.
Yeah.
And I don't know why, but it adds so much to the story. It makes it more contemporary for me.
No, it does, but it's not. It's kind of making something seem contemporary. Isn't just using new clothes. It's or the popular clothes of the time.
Right.
To me, it's using everything that worked from the past.
Yeah.
There you go.
In addition to now, like I'm trying to. God, what was that book I was thinking of? I'm blanking on it. But
okay.
But no, like the Bruce Timm Batman. Okay.
Oh, okay.
In other words, what you do for something to feel like what they do in Young Avengers and what they did in Phonogram is that fashion isn't just like, I don't know, you know, Jerry curled hair from the 90s, you know, like everyone would do, like the mullet. It's really taking, there's bits and pieces of like 1970s fashion in there, bits and pieces of the 80s. It's kind of taking whatever works and whatever you could afford on a budget.
Yeah. No, it's
you notice that, like, that's why that dress works, because you go, she could get that.
Yeah.
She could get that dress at a thrift shop.
Totally.
Make it work.
Yeah, it's awesome.
I love it.
Here was this thing. Catwoman was my example. That was it. Catwoman.
Oh,
by
the
Brubaker,
new one, yeah.
by Brubaker and Cook.
Yeah.
They had her in a leather outfit with combat boots.
And
it was very utilitarian, and it looked very
And she wasn't wearing fucking heels.
No, she was wearing heavy boots like from The Crow.
You're not fighting any fucking crime in heels unless you're fucking Supergirl or some shit and you're super, like, whatever. But if you're just a fucking chick like Catwoman, you are not wearing goddamn stiletto heels. Let me tell you.
But if you guys like Young Avengers,
I mean, if you're looking for Batman,
you would love Brubaker's Catwoman. That's all I'm saying.
Well, here is a special back issue, I guess. Not back issue, but they've re-released the Silver Surfer Parable, done by Stan Lee and Mobius. And if you don't know, Mobius is super badass European artist, French, I believe. And it's amazing that they got him to do a Marvel comic. He did a lot of stuff for Heavy Metal, with Jodorowsky.
Yeah, he passed away last year.
Oh, I did not know that.
He passed away last year. For Mobius to do an American comic was a real event. And I think this was in '88 or... I don't know. Anybody on the internet who's going to make comments, they can correct me on whatever the year was.
They will. Don't worry.
But I'm sure it was the late 80s, and somehow they convinced Mobius to do a comic, and Stan Lee brought his A game. And I think Stan Lee showed everybody that he's a really, really, really good writer.
No, it's really good. I mean, it's
honestly, I was just thinking about it because we were talking about it a little before we started. this is actually the story of God, the demiurge, like the guy who created the universe,
right?
Yeah.
And Jesus,
and
his son,
and
he's arguing to spare them. Mm-hmm. It's the biblical story. It's the parable.
They
take the FF out.
But they take the parable off the front cover too. I don't know why they didn't do that, but whatever.
I think they were expecting the Stan Lee and the Mobius to sell the title.
Yeah, it is beautiful, and it's something that I really love about it is that they respected Mobius enough, which they should, to not fuck with the coloring. Because, I said this last time, like, the Jim Lee X-Men stuff was re-released, and it was all recolored, and it looked like shit. And it's like, I love that flat coloring, the newsprint coloring. I love it. I love such a limited palette that what they were able to do with that. And I'm glad that they didn't fuck with this like they normally do.
Yeah, what people don't realize is that the artist, and particularly Mobius, I think Mobius talks about it in the end pages of this. He was specifically gearing his art towards 3-color process.
Yeah. And that's why part of the reason he was excited about doing it, because he wanted to challenge himself to do something with such a flat, limited
because making
palette.
art in France,
right?
Like when he was making stuff for heavy metal or making stuff in France, the limitations of the American market with the 3-color process and newsprint, which this originally was printed on. He was excited about the idea of having a limitation, a severe limitation,
and he works it, and it looks really fucking good. Like the art is.
I was just gonna say I haven't read this, and you guys were showing it to me, and it looks beautiful.
Oh, it really
And I was so excited because I'm like, wow, this does look like something I would have gotten out of Heavy Metal magazine.
Yeah.
And sure enough, you were like, oh yeah. Duh.
Yeah.
This is the guy. This is the guy. If people think of heavy metal, they think of this guy.
Yeah, and in the back of it, it's really cool. They have a making of. So they have like Mobius talking about all these things that we were just talking about, like what his process was, and he's talking about how he's freaking out about doing it, and like that was really cool.
Well, a lot of the thing that people don't know about the Silver Surfer is that Stan Lee did create the Silver Surfer. But the Silver Surfer we know really came from the head of Stan Lee. Stan Lee made him a philosophizing, brooding, Byronic type of hero.
Yeah.
Kirby wanted him to be a real freaky alien who would scare everybody.
Yeah.
And I think kind of those two things meet here in
Definitely. Well, reading that.
I like this Silver Surfer character. Is that consistent with other books or just only this?
Is this Silver Surfer consistent with other books, or is this its? I think it's.
Well, it really stands. It kind of stands as its own sort of myth outside of the main continuity.
Yeah.
It's kind of like this is a movie.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah.
That's what I liked about it.
It really, honestly, if they did a Silver Surfer movie, this is what they should do, because it cleans out all the other.
And plus, the main bad guy, if you will, even though he's above good and evil, would be Galactus, and I just love Galactus, and this I know that you can't do Galactus all the time, and you can only do it here and there, and that's why I like him so much, is because he's like a special treat. And this Galactus treat is totally awesome. It's like he talks more than he normally does. I feel he has a little bit more.
Well, again, I mean, I really believe that it's a story of God talking to his son,
right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's an argument, and he's arguing for him to spare these people.
Yeah.
He's like, well, why are these people special? I've been killing lots and lots of people for a long
I
period
don't
of time.
care.
And
I'm
also,
Galactus.
It really illustrates how terrible the people are.
Yeah, and it really does show how confused humanity is.
They just want to follow blindly any being.
Yeah,
it's a real. It really says a lot, and I mean, I wish I could say that all Silver Surfer stories are as good as this, but they're not.
But see, and that's the shame, because
but there are a lot of really good Silver Surfer stories.
This is the Silver Surfer that I know. I think a lot of people, a lot of writers now, don't know how to write him.
Yeah.
And that's why.
Well, I've always been confused by his character up until.
Again, it's comic
recently,
shame.
Comic.
No, it is comic shame. I'll tell you why. Because Stan Lee wrote in a very specific way, which is lots of dialogue, lots of florid words, and I think a lot of writers who write now are frightened of coming off like.
The carnival barker, grandiose.
Everyone says they love Stan Lee and stuff like that, but nobody makes a comic like they made it in the 60s anymore.
That's true.
Yeah.
Thought bubbles and big florid speeches and that kind of thing.
I kind of like it. I don't know, but that's me. Like that.
Yeah.
I talk to T-Bone all the time, and I was just like, T-Bone, we're like Stan Lee and Jack Kirby. Like, I'm like the Stan Lee, like, whoa, check it out, folks. Step right up, and then he's in the back, like, working his ass off, making everything look beautiful and perfect.
And most people don't know him here.
And most people, but you don't,
I know.
But you're not, like, good at selling yourself, just like Jack Kirby was, like, I was reading that Marvel book that you told me to read, and let's
say the name of the book to give it.
Marvel Comics: The Untold Story.
Yes, which one in Eisner?
And I'm still getting through it. I'm not done with it yet, but there's a part where Kirby comes back to Marvel, and he's at this convention, and he's telling people that he's back, and he's up on stage, and he goes, "I have stories that will electrocute you in the mind." And like Stan Lee comes up and he's like, "No, it's electrify." Like she's trying to help him.
The thing about Stan Lee is, and I've been in this camp of really discounting Stan Lee, but you can't discount what he did. I mean, that dude was that guy's what got everyone into Marvel. He was the carnival barker that's basically got everybody into the universe.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's like he has done so much, and the problem is not discrediting him. The problem is getting people to realize that other people also did so much, and I think that's the thing where people have a backlash against him, and they're like,
the real problem is that Stan Lee has always been a company man. He is trying to put food on the table for his family. That doesn't make him a villain. That makes him a human being, and they all worked. Everyone worked for the whole point of that book. Really, is that they all worked for corporation. And everything they created is owned by that corporation. So maybe it came from the mind of Stan Lee, but Stan Lee doesn't control it. He worked for hire. Jack Kirby. The only thing that Stan Lee knows is Stan Lee knew the game from the beginning and played it right. And people are angry at Stan because Stan.
But that's the thing, I mean, he was working the system he was given, which is very adversive. I mean, like, there's times where he was like, fuck this, I want to quit.
The thing is, Stan Lee had to go into the offices every day for years, ensuring everyone had a job. Stan Lee and a lot of those artists were freelance and went home. They never came into the offices. They never had to deal with the business side of things. And Stan Lee was immersed in it. Stan Lee knows he doesn't own anything, and he's not happy about it. But it's like he's done the best he can. I myself fell into the trap of making like Stan Lee into a villain and all the artists into heroes. And to me, the truth is like
it's really in between. You know, he's not perfect, but he's not evil either. You know.
No, and he had a lot to. There would be no Marvel without Stan Lee.
Yeah. Well.
Glad we said that.
Well.
Glad we settled the matter. All right, we're back.
All right. Okay, we're back.
All right, and we're back.
All right, so let's start off with Image's #1, brand new, Sex Criminals.
I like talking about sex criminals.
All right, Kirk, you go first. How about you go
first? Okay. Yeah, it's awesome. It's Fraction and Zdarsky. And, Matt Fraction is sometimes really hit and miss with me, as a lot of artists are. But this is, we were talking about this earlier, this comic is very self-aware that it's a comic.
Yeah, yes. In a good way.
And it's dealing with subject matter that I normally wouldn't be like, well, how's this going to work for a comic book?
Yeah.
But it really is about a woman who, every time she has an orgasm, she can stop time for a little bit.
For a little bit.
And frankly, my experience as a man who's very feminine is that every time I have really good sex, that's the same feeling.
Yeah.
Like you go into this this moment where most of us live our lives worrying about the past, worrying about the future, and enmeshed in the past.
Right.
Yeah.
And then it's only in certain moments, like when we have sex, it's really good sex, not just sex, but really good sex, where we somehow step outside.
Time doesn't
matter. And I love the fact that this is what we're talking about right now.
You're in the moment.
And I don't feel like this is such a great concept. I don't feel weird talking about it.
I don't feel weird at all.
Awesome.
Well, and this is something that I, as a girl, really appreciate.
You're a woman.
I'm a woman, I guess. As a lady, I really appreciate the subject matter of this young girl having her first orgasm in the bathtub with Mr. fucking Fawcett and trying to figure it all out and all this stuff. And it's like, that's some subject matter that I really haven't seen broached in comics very often. Maybe there is a whole teen girl puberty orgasm section that I'm not aware of.
Penthouse used to put comics out for it.
But as a woman, it's written really well. Like, it's like, wow, that really...
It's good to hear that, because, I mean, I'm not a woman, but as I read it, I go, wow, he's writing a really good female protagonist. Like, I really like her. I care about her.
Yeah.
And in fact, the comic doesn't even get to its main sort of sci-fi-ish concept till the very end.
Right.
And I was happy.
Yeah.
I actually didn't care that it finally got to the concept.
Yeah.
Just her talking about her life and sort of constantly stepping outside of the panels.
Right.
And like she'd be in her classroom when she's in 3rd grade and going, yeah, this is the first time that I did,
And this is something I think that's really cool, that because of the subject matter, and because it is really great that it's written from a female point of view by a man. So that's always kind of scary to deal with.
Yeah.
I like that there are uncomfortable situations in the comic, but like I said, because the comic is self-aware, and because the narrative is talking to the reader and bringing you along for the ride, I like the fact that there are these uncomfortable situations, and it's the grown-up version of her there in the uncomfortable situation of the young version of her.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I like that it's like, no, but it's going to be okay, because it's going to be all right. This is all going somewhere, and I know, it's almost like, honey, I know this is really uncomfortable. And it's cool. I know this sucks.
Yeah, and it's cool
but
because...
there's a whole purpose for it.
Yeah, and it's cool because, I don't know, I'm not a guy, I'm not like an indie comic I have to be honest, like, the art has to be good, and it has to grab me.
I get it.
You know what I mean? Yeah. And it's like, there was just stuff in this comic where I'm like, you can't do this without it. This can only really be done in a comic book, what they did here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And he really pushes the limits of what you can do in a panel. But this is funny, you flipped open to this one page actually shocked me. where she goes into the bathroom and with the slut of the school. Girl, and the slut of the school goes, okay, I'm going to show you everything. And she starts drawing on
these
the stall.
crude drawings.
Things I've never even heard of.
Yeah.
You haven't tried shrimping?
No, dude, I've never even heard of it. I've never heard of
shrimping is our favorite.
I've never heard of the term. I might have done this, but I've never heard of the term bloobing.
Yeah.
No, I like, and especially because I like the fact that I think everyone's first like educational experience into sex when you're growing up is crude drawings.
Yeah, and
like
it's like dirty jokes.
Dude, I know this guy can really draw a naked woman.
Yeah.
We think that's what a naked woman looks like.
Well, and it's so funny too because it's like these kids talking about sex and like this is what she's talking about, and that's so not anything relevant. You know what I mean? Like it's children talking about this, and it's so juvenile and hilarious. Like,
well, and then the whole thing when she goes to the gynecologist, and in the relationships I've been in, it's always this kind of conversation.
Yeah.
Like about the gynecologist, like this first time you go, and this expectation that you're gonna learn, like something's gonna happen.
No, and
you're gonna learn
not
something.
Gonna learn anything.
And it's just some really boring dude.
Yeah. Well, it's like she asks the doctor. She goes, "Doctor, what happens after you have an orgasm? I'm asking for a friend." You know. And then the guy looks up at her from in between her legs.
So bored.
And it's like, usually fall asleep, Suzanne, with your husband. You know. And it's like, oh God, like she keeps having all these strikes, like trying.
Yeah. To me, I mean, a lot of this, like, there's a lot of nods to Daniel Klaus.
Definitely.
Book like his stuff in here, and which I really liked, and it's sort of bringing Daniel Klaus into a.
Wait, he's the guy who's a super, super clean.
He did Ghost World. He did was cast like a Velvet Glove cast
in Iron.
Which was really amazing.
David Boring. He's a Dan Poussey. Poussey was the book.
Yeah.
He
did a lot of 8-Ball stuff.
But a lot of this sort of deadpan humor,
right?
I haven't seen done outside of Fantagraphics.
Absolutely.
It's the first. I was really pleased to see this in an Image book.
Yeah. No, it's
and
Sex Criminals.
I
really
like the
awesome.
fact that not every, like I wish television was like this, but that a lot of these characters that are quote unquote cast in the comic book are not all pretty.
Yeah.
Like the guy that she finds is actually this kind of big nosed.
Yeah, it's not.
But he's charismatic. I mean, you understand the way they.
Realistic.
The way they write it, it's like you could see why she's attracted to him. I mean, he's intelligent, he's charismatic. Yeah. He gets her.
Yeah.
Or at least he seems.
I mean, it's such a sweet scene at the party when she meets the guy.
Yeah. Well, he quotes Lolita.
Yeah.
I mean, she lists that as her favorite book, and some dude's like, "Isn't that a sex book?"
Yeah. And then this other guy comes up and just starts quoting it. Bah, bah, bah. It's like, oh man, that dude is getting so laid tonight. Like,
like he's getting.
And then he does.
I mean, and he's even making jokes during, like, as they're doing the foreplay.
Yeah.
Like, trying to kind of put her at ease a little bit.
To me, in a lot of ways, like, sex, or in particularly the beginning stages of relationship are like a spell. Like casting a spell. And the way they depict it in the comic book is where the things become brighter, and then you start seeing, like, weird lighting effects.
Oh,
Right.
Yeah.
It's like, that's what happens.
Yeah, and well, even this too, like the scene where he's taking around the party, like doing all this Lolita stuff. But you see in the very first panel, both of her feet are off the ground.
Exactly.
Like, you know, and that's such a nice little, like,
the comic,
perfect way to talk about that sort
it
of
breaks,
stuff.
it's different. It is a self-conscious comic, but at the same time, it's proud to wear its sentimentality on its sleeve.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think it's, I mean, for all its subject matter, it's really sweet.
Yeah, definitely.
And I wasn't expecting that, especially because at the very end, there's like, this book is dedicated to the brave men and women who love to fuck. Like, that's who they dedicated this comic to.
Yeah, but I mean, Fraction, for anyone who hasn't read, like, his stuff outside of Marvel, I really recommend Casanova.
Casanova's awesome.
It's just, he's very concerned with breaking the conventions of the panel.
Yeah.
And what you can do in it. And I love sex
and maybe
criminals.
that's the reason why I keep...
I can't believe I just said that. That's a quote.
I love
like,
sex
you can literally
criminals.
pull that out and plop it anywhere.
Hopefully you get
I
credit
love
for
sex
that.
criminals.
I do.
But, like, again, maybe that's why I keep telling everyone about Young Avengers. Let's look
It's
outside
very-
of what you can do in the panel.
And it's very human, you know? It just
Yeah.
has a lot of human, like, moments that you can really relate to, like, even though there's all this fantastical stuff happening, and that's, like,
And
that's what
she's a
it's all about.
smart female character that you can believe in.
And she likes to have sex, and
Again,
she's
just
not a slut.
just keep throwing it out there, dude. Just,
You know.
She's
they
a
gotta use one
smart-
of these taglines.
Smart, beautiful.
Self-assured.
Okay.
I could see her in a SHIELD van. I could.
Yeah. Well, let's move on to the darker
1 point,
side,
Darren.
the darker side of Image. Let's talk about Jupiter's Legacy #3, heating up,
Literally.
heating up.
How long does it
Dude.
take to cook your dad? And
Oh my god, so awesome! Like, and the thing is, I've been having a lot of not troubles, but Mark Miller. I've been really thinking about him a lot lately. You know.
No, me too. Me too.
And this Jupiter's Legacy makes me like him. Whereas some of his other comics make me not like him.
Well, I'm of the mind that I think there's two different Mark Millers.
Yeah.
There really are. I
yeah.
think he writes in two different styles.
Right.
There's Superman Red Sun Mark Miller, which is great high concept, which is he has in common with the other Mark Miller, but takes a lot of time to flesh out character. Mm-hmm. The other Mark Miller is, hey, I just raped your girlfriend, I chopped the dog's head off.
Fuck
and
you.
Fuck you. And
Yeah.
guess what
Everyone's
else I can do?
awful.
There's two
Everyone's
different
awful.
stories. To me, this falls more in the Superman Red Sun camp
Yeah.
as far as...
I'm really glad you said that. Before we started taping this, you brought something up that in order to get Frank Quitely for the art,
Yeah.
like, I feel like Frank is the type of guy who gets to pick and choose his projects now.
Oh yeah.
Totally.
So this story, because it's kind of high concept, and again, really great with, you know, it's the third issue when we finally get to the meat and bones of what this story's about.
Yeah.
Is it one of those stories that when Frank looked at it and went, yeah, this is really good, I want to do this?
Yeah.
And I like that. I like that it's strong enough.
And it
to
follows
pull.
basically the template of the Greek gods killing the Titans.
Yeah,
to
absolutely.
take over.
In a postmodern superhero story.
But did you guys? I'll bet you guys.
Do we need to try to get people caught up really quickly in what's going on in this?
I don't know if I want to give too much plot away though.
Yeah. Well.
Okay,
we're
okay,
we're definitely dealing with like the children of superheroes.
Yeah.
So imagine
Disillusioned children of superheroes.
Exactly. Like almost like imagine if the Hilton sisters
Or the
had
Kardashians.
superpowers.
Yeah. Because they're celebrities.
Exactly.
They're all
like, and they're
Hollywooded
still
out.
hanging out at the club,
But
and they need to do 35 shots just to get drunk because
They're super.
they're super.
And meanwhile, their parents are still stuck in a World War II way of thinking.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
There you
yeah.
go. Perfect.
And that's how Dad thinks. Dad's like, look, the government will work it out.
Yeah.
Our job's just to save kittens from trees,
Yeah,
which he literally
you still
does.
need to have faith
Yeah.
in humanity because they will find their way.
Right.
Yeah, and then the brother,
It's like fuck that.
the main
The uncle.
the main utopian's brother
Right.
is basically saying, dude, I have all the answers. I can fix
Yeah.
the economy. I can do all
And
of
in the
this.
first issue, he's like meeting with people like, this is how we're going to fix the world.
Yeah.
And literally the utopian who's
His
the
brother.
Superman,
Right.
I guess you could say, is going, brother, you can't do this. We cannot meddle in their affairs in this way.
Yeah.
Let's go save kittens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know?
And he's
Thank you.
tired
See,
of it.
now I want to read it. I didn't
Yeah.
care before.
Yeah.
It's
You guys got to do these setups more often.
But dig this, guys. Did you
I
read?
will. We'll do it.
Did you read the editorial in the back?
No, I did not.
Okay. At the very end of this issue, what happens? I mean, at the very end of this issue, the status quo has changed. The Utopian is no longer in power. Now it's his son and
his brother.
And the brother who had all the powers.
Great bad idea. Yeah.
Guess what happens in issue 4?
What?
The whole story takes a very different turn as of number 4 as we jump forward 9 years.
Oh!
And immediately see the results of what Brandon just got up to. I think that's fucking great.
Yes.
Yeah.
He's actually skipping all the stuff that's already been covered in Squadron Supreme and Kingdom Come.
Yes.
And all that stuff. He's going 9 years into the future after this 3rd issue.
There's a plan. We've implemented the plan, and now we're going to see. We're going to immediately see
the consequences.
The consequences of the plan.
Because you're right. Like, this story has been done by a lot of different people in a lot of different ways, and that's interesting. That
but when I read that it was going forward 9 years, I was like, okay, this is a great comic.
Yeah, this is one that like I couldn't wait for trade paperback. Like, this.
Oh
is
no,
one
I need this.
You need it.
It's the same when the Ultimates came out. I had to get the Ultimates every year.
Oh God, yeah. The originally, but
So anyway, yeah. So this is a very, very, very good comic. Well drawn, well written, and
characters are very well thought out. And the great thing is that, especially with Frank Quitely's art, he's not so much dark, but we were talking earlier. He likes to utilize negative space.
Yeah.
The color palette and the tone of the comic is actually very bright.
Yeah.
It's very primary colors. Mm-hmm. But there are some amazing, because of the story beats, some very scary moments in the book. And those are the stuff I really want to talk about, but we can't. Yeah, I want you to go get this book.
Yeah, you guys just need to go get the book.
But there are actual moments where there's dialogue happening, and then you flip the page, and it kind of hits you how hard and how gruesome and how ugly the situation is.
One of the things they do is there's no sound effects in the book at all.
Oh, I noticed that. Oh, look at that.
So it makes everything kind of cold.
Yeah.
Very.
And that's what I mean. That's why the horror of something hits you, because you realize
it's not a big pow. It's all visually being.
You didn't see a kaboom.
Yeah.
Right.
No, it's the thing. If you were on the fence after reading issue number 2 and you're like, I don't know. Yeah, read issue number 3. You will be freaking out.
Man.
It is good. It is so good.
What if I had an entire fight in your mind?
Craziness. I love it.
And again, the goddamn detail at Frank's stuff is amazing.
I know. You know, some asshole on my Facebook one time said that I was showing Frank Quitely art stuff from Flex Mentallo, I believe, or it might have been it might have been All Star. Mm-hmm. But he was like, that looks like my kid could have drawn it. And I just wanted to be like, shh, don't say that in public.
Here's something that...
Oh, yeah, I know. I'm not even going to belittle you right now.
Here's something that morons never understand, and why they're always fooled by the crosshatchers of the world, is that the fewer lines you use indicate how good of an artist you are.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's why Bruce Timm, why the Batman animated show worked. When you sent it over, why did the X-Men cartoons look so awful? You might have liked them, the ones in the 90s.
Yeah.
Right.
They looked awful, right?
No, they're terrible.
Because the guy who designed it designed every little detail. Yeah. And when you send it to Korea, they can't animate that.
Yeah. Absolutely.
But Bruce Timm sends them something that's like 4 lines.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh yeah, I can work with those.
Yeah. And then what you get back
and that's
amazing.
Something that, we were talking about Mobius earlier. It's like, that's something that Mobius does so well. I mean, his shorthand for stuff, for faces, for bodies, for whatever, it's just phenomenal. I mean, sometimes he does really detailed stuff up close, but sometimes it's like, just the background is just gorgeously slapped onto the page.
I'm really happy that you liked Parable. I'm really happy that it still holds up.
Oh, yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, because... I'm really happy that Marvel...
Very relevant.
Yeah, I'm really happy that Marvel's made it available in a cheap way, that people can just grab it.
Because they should, more people should know about it, And that's what's so cool about Marvel, is that they're not like, just the new and the best, and that's what we're about, the new shit. It's like, this is fucking cool, too. We're proud of this. You guys should check it out, And that's really cool. Well, speaking of Mark Millar, let's go to Mark Miller.
What's funny is because Mark Millar, it pronounces his name Miller.
See, I always said Millar.
Oh, that's why I've got actual conversations and arguments that nerds will get in a fight over.
I watched him
is
on
it
an
Miller
interview.
or Millar?
It's Miller.
It's Miller.
Yeah.
But it's like a Scottish thing, so it's like
I'm Mark Miller. That's how they say. That's how he says it.
Yeah.
I mean, I watched him in live time speak.
Yeah.
I feel like we've decided to announce it or enunciate it Millar.
I think for
just
America,
so that for guys like us that want to talk about him.
For this point on, we will just simply call him Millar.
Millar.
Yeah.
He's just the Millar.
It's.
So we got Mark Millar over at Boom Studios doing Clive Barker's Next Testament. We're on issue
book.
number 4. It's so good, and it
I'm
does.
not reading it.
You're not getting it every month. It might take a few months to get the next issue.
Yeah.
It's not on time, but it's worth the
free.
wait.
It's been pretty
It's
much
not
on
too
time.
bad, but it's worth
just
the
a
wait.
great concept. I'm a guy who was. I went to a Greek Orthodox school for 8 years, and then a Catholic school for 4 years. So anything.
So that's what's wrong with you.
Yes, that's what's wrong with me. But anything having to do with God and the God of the Old Testament, just I get immediately
excited.
Because it's like this is basically a book about. Well, the Gnostics would call him the demiurge.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's a belief that I know I'm getting way off topic.
No, keep
I'm sorry.
going.
No, it's
keep
okay.
going.
But there's this belief that the Gnostics, who were basically the biggest people in competition with what became the Catholic Church, believed that the creator of the world in the Old Testament is not the real God. He's what they call a demiurge.
Right.
He's sort of someone appointed to do the creation. But the reason he says I'm a jealous God, and you have no other gods before me, proves that he's not God.
Right.
Because God would never be jealous.
And
I used to have this argument with my religion teachers. Like, if he's God...
If he's omnipotent, what does he care?
If he's God, why is he jealous?
I don't know.
I don't necessarily picture God poisoning the well for other gods.
So
you know?
If you believe that God, that the creator of humanity was actually the demiurge, and that they talk about something called the Godhead, which is the thing beyond our comprehension.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so...
It is everything, essentially.
So then it makes sense to me. Yeah. And then this book is great because it's like, this is the demiurge, or the God of the Old Testament.
Right, and he's back. And he's back. Fucking shit up, and he's out of his fucking mind. And
is he?
You know, well, he is and he isn't, but, you know, he's above that, just like Galactus.
If you have the ability to literally wipe out reality, I mean, sanity itself is up for grabs, isn't it?
It's true.
But he makes this great quote. This guy really is a big fan of the Fire and Brimstone.
Yeah,
from what I can figure out.
But he's great because he's like, we need to. He goes, the demiurge in the 4th issue is great because he literally goes. He goes by the name Quick. Or
it is.
Something like that.
Yeah.
But he decides, he goes, what was different? He kept trying to go, what was different?
Yeah.
Oh, there were a lot less people. Yeah, so he decides he's going to have to kill a lot of people.
Let's get rid of a bunch of people.
He also decides what else is wrong.
Communication.
So he wipes out the internet. He wipes out
everything.
Cell phones.
Airplanes.
He wipes out airplanes.
Yeah.
Because he realizes that in order to control a group of people...
They can't be connected. Yeah.
He has to destroy all the means by which they communicate with each other.
Interesting.
And
dude, it's so good, Kirk.
And let me
I gotta check it out.
And let me tell you too, something that I really like about it is
Captain Kirk. I'm sorry.
There's a lot of stuff. I have a lot of complaints with things now because we're not really putting out a lot of iconic characters, which I find disappointing because I love iconic characters, and I feel like this. The God in this Next Testament is very iconic. I've never seen anything that looks like him before. I really like the way he looks. He's very simple and sleek, and he works because he's like wearing a suit, but he has these like weird colors,
the
like on
colors
him
that swirl off it. That's definitely the Clive Barker.
Oh, absolutely.
And is this based off of?
It's a Clive Barker. I don't know if it's
I
don't think it's a short story. I think it's an original.
Just
story
an idea that he had.
It's an original story that Clive Barker had, and then it's being fleshed out by this writer, but. This Mark Miller, who's writing it, is doing a very good job.
Okay, and I want to point out, because I know when you say Clive Barker's name, chains, hooks, and flesh, that's not this. There's an aesthetic that comes to mind. Here's
what happens.
This is not happening in this comic.
This is what's happening in the comic, the best of Clive Barker, which is the way Clive Barker makes things that are beyond our understanding seem really... scary because
terrifying.
We can't understand them.
Yeah.
Like, I'm getting goosebumps talking about it because that's the horror that Clive Barker is able to do.
100%.
It's a terrifying concept that what if the Old Testament God was the real God? And that's how he really felt about humanity.
Yeah.
I recommend that anyone who likes this book pick up Super God by, not Super Gods, by
Grant Morrison.
Super God by Warren Ellis.
Okay, I have that, and it's amazing.
I have not read
this.
It's
one of the best books. Imagine if all the Marvel and DC characters were created by the government.
Mm-hmm.
And okay, imagine like India, right? India pours all its money into creating a character from the Upanishads.
Mm-hmm.
And they put all those scriptures into the character, and they create this amazing character using zillions of dollars. First thing that character does is he decides that in order to save India, he has to destroy half of it.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome.
And then America has their own god.
Right.
And then all these countries have their own gods. So it's not a nuclear arms race. It's a gods race.
And it literally is like...
And it's scary.
It's like, there's some really cool stuff in that in Super God, because like the moment they create this quote-unquote god, the actual the scientists and the researchers that created the god immediately just bow down and start worshiping it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it's this really crazy,
which kind of makes the argument of like who created
exactly. Like, so did we create a god so that we... Not to get super religious, but that is an awesome title. I love that thing. Yeah. And by the way, also being narrated by a guy where it's the end of the world, and he's got a tape recorder and a J in his pocket.
You need to read that.
It's really good.
I know.
I think I've been pushing that on you for about 4 years.
I know. I need to get it.
It's one of those books. It's one of those books I can never convince people to read. They just don't.
I'll read it.
So Next Testament looks amazing. I need to pick that up. You guys do too.
Yeah, definitely. So let's briefly touch on our last 4 little deals. You know, we got a couple extra ones. We got The Wake. Still killing it. We're on issue number 4 now of 10. And it is just a fun thrill ride, like Abyss alien style, trapped with these fucking monsters.
Really well written Pacific Rim formula. Just really good.
Yeah, and the drawings are obviously
Sean Murphy is great.
Did
you guys read Sean Murphy's story in Batman Black and White?
I did.
I did not.
Really good.
The art was amazing.
I need to check that. Well, it's in the other room.
Yeah, it's just
other
so
things
cool.
I cannot wait to see how the 10,000 years ago story's going to tie into everything.
Those are my favorite parts of this.
And they only do like 2 pages of it.
Every issue starts with like a different time period.
Right.
Like sometimes it's hundreds of thousands of years ahead of us. Sometimes it's like 100,000 years in the past.
And I'm kind of rocking a theory, because there is this idea that when we evolved from goo from the ocean, that there were those of us that stayed on land, and then there were some of us that went back into the ocean,
which I think is totally feasible.
And
why would one die out?
Yeah,
exactly.
I mean, the ocean. That's
so when they're talking about these creepy, scary mermen, like Leviathan things,
but in this issue they have technology they shouldn't have.
Yeah,
exactly.
Back in the day.
Thank you. Yes.
And you know, one of the things that I like most about this comic is when they have the pages where Scott Snyder writes about some weird mythological thing that he read about while doing research for this, where they always bring in all these little... a character in the story will tell this mythological story, and it's always just so well illustrated. Like, the page is just so
The truth is,
beautiful.
as a writer, the only really fun part of writing is the research.
Yeah.
Apparently, because...
See, I always do just research, and then I never get around to writing. That's my problem.
That's the problem. Yeah, but you could tell he was doing a lot of study in folklore and mythology. And I'd say fans of Hellboy and fans of hard sci-fi.
Yeah.
Would both like this book.
I like the fact that you brought up Abyss, because it's one of my all-time favorite movies. Yeah. And it's been a really long time since I've gotten anything that's
I'm going to have to watch that movie again.
It's awesome.
I was like, where are they going?
It's awesome. Very long, but
I love the movie up until the end.
Yeah. Well,
then I didn't like it.
It's the creature design. It just you have to make them humanoid for you to really connect with them, and it was too abstract for people to really connect with.
I guess I gotta watch it again.
That's why I like the director's cut. Well, because the director's cut's got an extra 45 minutes on it.
I've never seen the director's cut.
Director's cut actually shows you what's going on in the rest of the world while he's meeting with the creatures.
Yeah, I need to watch it.
That they took out of the original theatrical, but you actually it adds this
I love Ed
sense
Harris.
of...
I mean, I could watch that guy.
Yeah,
totally.
He's amazing.
But that's just there's tidal waves. That's all I'm gonna say.
Yeah.
If you haven't seen the director's cut, go nerd out and do it.
All right, I'm gonna actually run out and get the Blu-ray.
Do it.
Well, we also have Hickman's East of West #6 coming out from Image, which is also still awesome.
Which, for my money, is the best thing that Hickman's doing.
Yes.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I think it's
I agree.
To date. My favorite other thing besides this was the SHIELD book he did. The Nick Fury book he did.
Secret Warriors.
Secret Warriors, and just because it's really tight. There's like a lot of mythology and stuff going on, but
Yeah, well,
as far as the characters and everything really gel.
And it's like every issue you get some new weird awesome character that's like totally like these.
Do you
judges,
realize what he created? He basically put Judge Dredd.
He did.
He put Judge Dredd into the story, into the book.
There's these judges who also were wearing a very much like Joe Dorowski like headpiece from like the technocrat or the techno priests. Yeah. He definitely looks like a techno priest. But anyways. He shoots him, takes his
like
little,
Daft Punk,
a little bit. Yeah, I'll give you that.
And then,
but I was like, these guys are Judge Dredd.
Yeah, they make a Judge Dredd thing, and it's so awesome.
To me, I'd love to have like a conversation with Mr. Hickman and just ask him how much role playing he did as a kid.
Yeah,
like, did he play a lot of D&D?
That's what it feels like. It really does feel like
that. And I mean that in the best possible way. Dude. It's just such an amazingly fertile imagination. I just can't believe this guy.
I could definitely see like a bunch of different D20 games happening at the same time in this comic book.
Oh, yeah.
Like there's definitely riffs in there, and there's definitely
he's a world
D&D,
builder.
And there's definitely like some cyberpunk like elements.
He's a world builder for sure. So East of West is still killing it. I'm sure since now it's on 6, the trade paperback should be coming out.
First trade paperback just came out,
Okay, so check that one out. Also, we have the always popular Saga.
Yeah,
and is it the hottest comic right now? Right? Would you say that people are buying it the most, or is that much buzz
definitely?
About it?
I mean, just as a layman, yes, I would say that it is the kind of book that people who don't read comic books like to read.
Yes,
and that's kind of actually the same thing that Why the Last Man did.
Yeah.
There's like only a few books I can think of that have this ability, and men and women.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Men and women.
Definitely.
Walking Dead, Saga, and Why the Last Man are the books that I can think of off the top of my head.
Which, by the way, Why the Last Man, also written by Brian K. Vaughan.
Yes. Yeah. And the series before that had that quality, and I think people will rediscover soon, is Sandman.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
But Sandman was the first time I can remember women. This is going back like women coming in and reading comic books.
Yeah.
Like,
right.
And that's the thing. If you write it, we will come, man.
It's supposed to be a good story.
Field of Dreams. Like, it's the same shit, man. Like, just put it out. I'll fucking read it. Like, god damn it.
And I said it on the last podcast, Plopcast. You need to... Sandman is required reading on so many levels.
But that's the problem. And that's the problem, is everybody views it that way now. Just like they view Watchmen. They've been so steeped in the hype and like you have to read this,
right?
That they don't realize that it's actually a fun.
Oh, it's so fun
read.
Mm-hmm.
And Vertigo's going to put it out soon. The new title, the new series.
Yeah,
they're going to do Sandman. What did Sandman do in those 50? Like, how did he get imprisoned?
Right.
It's basically going to tell that whole story.
Yeah,
it's going to be J.H.
I can tell you looking at me right now that you haven't read Sandman.
I haven't. It's my deep dark. I admitted it last podcast. I admitted it.
Okay, but I didn't hear it.
Yeah.
I said.
But you know that I can tell when I talk to you. I can always tell what you haven't read.
I always like.
It's just this thing. I go, oh no, you haven't read that.
My lip. I have it. I bought it at the used bookstore.
Quietly nodding and smiling.
This is the reason why I haven't read Sandman. And this is my thing. It's like I haven't read a lot of stuff that I should read because it's like part of me knows that I'm not ready for it yet, and I'm waiting for the right time.
You're ready.
And I am ready now.
You are totally
I am ready for it because I don't think I would have understood it if I hadn't read it.
There would be no Saga, no Why the Last Man, none of those things without Sandman.
Well, let me tell you a little thing that I loved in this issue of Saga. There was like such many good moments where the little slave girl's hanging out with Lion Cat.
Yeah.
And she starts doing like, telling truths. So, to test Lion Cat to make sure Lion Cat isn't gonna, whatever.
Yeah.
And then she's like, starts saying, I can do this. And then she says, and I'm all dirty on the inside because of the bad things I did. And then Lion Cat's like lying. And then she hugs him.
It's to me the reason why people read the book.
Definitely.
Not because it's a space story, but this is a story. I mean, this girl who was turned into a sex slave against her will.
Mm-hmm.
And she has a moment where she voices that inner demon that we all have in our heads that tell us we're no good. And Lion Cat just goes, lying.
And then she just like,
how can you argue with lying?
It's so funny how great a character is that is basically a truth detector, lie detector.
Yeah.
And it just has one
word
of dialogue at any given time, lying.
But I'll tell you
it's
something.
such a great
But I'll tell you
character.
Something. In a way, I've always viewed cats that way.
Yeah. They are.
Because I don't know about if you guys have ever had this experience with a cat. Like, you'll be reading something, and then the cat just plops right down on top of whatever you're doing. And then you're like, I'm just so sad. And the cat just looks at you. And it's like the cat saying lying.
Yeah.
I really feel like he developed a sci-fi cat.
Yeah. No, it's great. Like, it's...
And the other thing, really quickly, I want to touch on with Saga. is that they're doing something amazing with the fact that this isn't the last few issues are getting us caught up to a point, which was a big reveal. God, I want to say like 3 issues ago when they go to the lighthouse that belongs to the author.
The one-eyed dude.
The Kurt Vonnegut guy.
Yeah.
Yes, totally. And I was like,
I love that writers make the worst first impressions when they
well, because that's a whole other topic.
That is a whole
other topic.
But that I'm still stuck on that cliffhanger. I need to know what happens next. And for the last 2 months, I've been getting the fill-in story, which is has been just as riveting.
Yeah.
Like explaining how they got to the Kurt Vonnegut guy. Mm-hmm. But man, I need to know what happens next, and that's why this title is just
what
genius.
I love about the book, though, is why he's a good writer, is that he hopped the book is told in retrospect, so you already know. That to me, the way he tells the story is why it's a good story, right? Because it's Star Wars, and it could totally suck.
Oh, totally.
But the way he tells the story is, because to me, like what I loved about Why the Last Man is in essence, it's really Why the Last Man was really just a story about a guy and a girl. Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's really all the story was about. It had a big sci-fi trappings around it, but in the end, the reason people read it was that emotional core, and he just always hits it with Saga.
And here's the other thing. What's going on with the bounty hunter?
The Will? He's become my favorite character.
Yeah.
The Will
the dude just
awesome.
doesn't want to hunt anymore.
He's just like,
he just wants to quit. But what's going on with the premonitions and visions of the stock?
Yeah.
His one time...
I like it.
I can't wait, because now it seems like the stock is motivating him.
I was
and she's
thinking,
dead, by the way.
Him, but in a way it makes sense, because even if you've had a breakup or anything like that, it's this whole idea of he's haunted by... Yeah. It's not her.
Yeah.
And
it was unresolved, too, and she was killed before it was resolved.
The fact that he had no closure on the relationship with her, she exists as a ghost that haunts him, and I have a feeling when the story finally plays out, she'll eventually disappear.
Right.
Yeah. Because he's going to end up...
resolution will happen.
And I just love that he has a superhero little hood.
Yeah.
And we never
see him use it, but I know he has it.
Yeah. Yeah. No, and I'm sure he will use it when it's his time, you know? Like,
it'll come on.
You know.
He does kind of come off as like this guy who is like part Han Solo, part Lando Calrissian.
Yeah, yeah.
You know.
Saga's just,
I love it.
It's good. And then, last but not least, I know Darren has a few choice words to say about Catalyst Comics, Dark Horse, #3, Joe Casey.
Yeah.
It's still going. It's still weird as fuck. I'm still enjoying it, though.
I'm enjoying it. The thing is, I can't talk about one book he's doing without every other book he's doing. Because they're all doing the same thing right now.
Yeah.
He's got the book Sex, which I'm really enjoying. Because Sex, I mean, Catalyst Comics is great because it's 3 interweaving stories.
And one is literally a catalyst for the next one.
Yeah.
And you have no idea how they're going to come together at some point, but you know that they're going to.
Exactly. And it's just a great, and I think the way he chooses to tell the stories is as important as the stories. Mm-hmm. He uses indie creators to do superhero stories, so you automatically get a weird...
That's my favorite.
Sort of effect from it.
Yeah.
I really do think, like, Catalyst, Sex... and Bounce are all kind of a...
You think he's creating a Jodo-verse for himself? Like a
He is in a way, because he's like, the dude, he is also an idea factory. Mm-hmm. He really is. And a lot of people... he's more than an idea factory, he's a word sleuth. Mm-hmm. This dude can sling words together like... I'm in awe. I'd never be able to write.
I picked up this title because, on your suggestion, and because I did get caught in one of your... We can't talk about just one title. We have to talk about all of them conversations.
Yeah.
And it's kind of funny because with as much that's going on, it's a very busy comic.
Yeah.
The dialogue flows so well for all the mayhem that's going on.
Mm-hmm.
And it is this fun
and it is a self-conscious comic in the sense that the person writing the comic, Joe Casey, is talking to you. And he's having a conversation. You know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of how I used to feel when I read Kurt Vonnegut. Like,
Kurt, just keep dropping Vonnegut into this.
No, because Kurt Vonnegut had recurring characters and recurring ideas.
Right.
And you didn't read a Kurt Vonnegut book necessarily because of how it was going to end. It was always like meeting a friend. Mm-hmm. When you picked up a Vonnegut book, it's like, hey friend, I was thinking about this. And and always with Joe Casey, it's kind of like Joe's he puts out a slew of books and he goes, this is what I'm thinking about right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that's kind of while I enjoy it. Like sometimes he gets there, sometimes he doesn't.
Well, like you were saying, it is very conversational. I'm trying to think of a way to describe it.
Colloquial.
Yeah.
It's good.
I like it. It's so full of ideas that I've honestly like had to put it down. It takes me time to read it, which is very rare in comics.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like each one of the stories has more ideas crammed in it than I can think of.
Okay, this is what Joe Casey communicates to people through comics. He probably couldn't have a conversation with you about the ideas that he has, but he can tell you through his comics.
Yes, and through comics, he has a million things to say about where we've been and where we're going.
Yeah.
And I
think it's guys, I think that's the perfect way to put it.
Yeah. That's the blurb that should be on the trade paperback.
Yeah, we'll let you have that.
No, I didn't say it.
No, and that's why I'm following all his books, and I like the book Sex because it's like the story of Batman after he gives up being Batman.
Right.
Yeah.
And a lot of people are like, well, I want him to be Batman again. And I go, but I'm kind of into the sex aspect of the book is kind of meaningless to me. You know what I mean? But I understand it's very much like a French. Mm-hmm. He's doing that, and the balance is actually turning into a really good book.
Yeah, I haven't read any of that.
It's just about sort of people coming from a 2D universe into a 3D universe.
Interesting.
And the thing with Joe Casey, because sometimes I feel like he's so underrated, is that there have been times I've been reading Joe Casey and gotten so enthralled in what he's doing, and then they pull the title away from me.
That happened to me. Listen, that has happened to me so many times. Wildcats? That hurts my heart when you say that. Wildcats 2.0 into 3.0 is still, to my mind, the great unfinished epic of comics.
Thank you.
Still the great unfinished epic of comics.
Yes, and I am talking about Jim Lee's Wildcats. That was like the big...
This bore no resemblance to that.
But it didn't... When he got a hold of that title, it didn't look anything like what you remember from the 90s image.
His whole idea was to have the superhero was a corporation.
Yes.
Yeah.
And again, a lot of people have ripped
batteries
on it
that never died, because that's how we're gonna make your life better. Like, I mean, just...
And it's gone. I know, and it's gone. And it's gone. And who was the artist on that? Dustin Gwinn, who's now a huge superstar.
Come on!
They never finished it. They canceled the book.
Canceled it.
And I even asked Joe one time, what were you gonna do? And he's like, I'm shaking my head.
He would not tell.
He's just like, he's not going to tell. It pissed me off.
It is. He is that guy. Like, how
but you know how many Joe Casey books I've read that have just been canceled? Like Automatic Kafka.
That's what I'm talking about.
Just like, and Joe's like, it's kind of like, dude, Jimi Hendrix is in the middle of a guitar solo, and
we just cut him off. Like, the power's dead.
No, and after a while, it got really dispiriting and disheartening for me.
Yeah. So that's what I'm talking about. Like, I get frustrated because I see Joe Casey on the cover, and I go, here we go, because I'm going to go for a great ride, and then nothing. Like, I know
But we know that's not going to happen now, because we have Image.
Yeah.
And I feel like this is the time where Joe's going to be able to do what he wants to do.
Yeah, because, I mean, I was just telling a friend today about the whole situation with, he's like, it just seems like it's so much work, and da-da-da. I'm like, comics is a lot of work. It's a lot of work, and you don't get a lot of money, but things are getting better. You know, like, things are, like, with the creator row
the
stuff.
People complain about, it's like, they don't even know hard. I mean, this is like, we could literally make a comic right now and put it up.
Right.
If we wanted.
Yeah.
Yeah, which okay, I mean, I know this may not even make it on the podcast. I just read a book called Sin to Tulo by Cameron Stewart.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
That was a webcomic first. And it's one of the best things I've read. It's so good.
What was the name of it again?
Sin to Tulo.
Okay.
Sin to Tulo. It was a webcomic, and it won like an Eisner. So it started as like an online... It just showed me like where the future could be going, which is like you create a great piece of work on the web... And then eventually it makes it into print. And then,
that's fantastic.
The web is great because, obviously...
It's a fabulous book.
You can
check it out.
Put your shit out, and then it's automatically judged by a court of your peers. You know what I'm saying? If it works, it works. And whether you're a no-name or a big name, whatever you are, you can get notoriety. And I mean, the internet's obviously a double-edged sword, but the internet can be used for good.
Well, here's the thing with the internet. You can put your work out. You don't have to listen to all the voices. People will choose with their wallets if they want to continue.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, that's what I think is
right.
I think that's the biggest decider.
That's where entertainment is going, though. I feel like television and a lot of movies and stuff are going to go straight to the internet, and people are just going to buy what they want to buy. But they're going to have to become more educated on things. There's going to be more choices, and that's a little bit more work. But that's why you have people like me out there to help you. There's too many.
There's too many choices for people, and I think a lot of times, truthfully, the chatter that you see on message boards and stuff is really just people saying, "I exist. Will someone acknowledge that I'm here?"
Yeah.
Because I feel so isolated in this world.
Yeah.
Because as much as technology brings us together, I think it's also
isolates you.
It's somewhat of a distancing effect, and maybe a lot of times those loud voices that are negative and stuff are really people just kind of saying, "Hey, will you guys? I'd like attention, whether it's negative or positive."
Well, it's the same thing.
Totally.
People. Well, people.
Well, this is funny because I want to hear these theories, and then I actually, believe it or not, I'm going to thank somebody for their comments.
Nice.
On
Isn't
the
that
YouTube.
refreshing? Isn't that?
But
refreshing?
I want to hear these theories.
My theory on all the negative comments that you have to deal with when you do a YouTube show or anything like that. I feel like I've come to the conclusion that, well, to make myself accept the matter, that people are just forces of the universe, as above, so below. So every force of nature that there's a person that represents that. And
there's a lot of chaotic motherfuckers on the internet.
Like, think about your...
a lot of chaotic evil out there.
When you were in grade school, you had like 30 people in your class, right?
Yeah.
There was always those 2 people that were the assholes in every single class I ever had.
Right.
Oh, absolutely.
Right? Yes. And they're there on whatever you talk about.
Well,
on
now
YouTube,
they congregate.
And they're going to make themselves known.
Yeah.
A lot of times people that have been bullied and have been picked on become tyrants on the web because it gives them anonymity, for one thing,
right,
and no consequences for their words.
Well, this is the
like
thing.
If I want to walk up to you and say, "You suck," and I have to do it to your face, that's a lot different than me typing "You suck."
Well, that's the thing. People, this is my thing. People right now are children on the internet because we've just got this new power where we can say whatever we want on the internet. And so because of that, people are juveniles. I mean, they're babies with it. They don't understand how to use it yet. So they use it very immaturely and they act like assholes. And the thing is, I remember this quote where it's like, who you are when you think no one is looking is who you really fucking are.
Oh, absolutely.
And that applies to the internet. And it's like, if you're like this because you have anonymity, like that's who you are at your core. And isn't that bad? Well, shouldn't you try to fucking be a little...
That's why I don't post anything anonymously, number one.
Right.
And it's something Kurt Vonnegut said in Mother Night, where which is a story about a guy named Howard Campbell who pops up in Slaughterhouse-5 and a bunch of the other stories.
Right.
He basically works for the Nazis, like as their mouthpiece, like on the radio. But he's an American, but he's caught in Germany, so he speaks for the Nazis. And it's all about afterwards, where he's in hiding under a different identity. And he says at one point, he looks at himself in the mirror, and he says, "Be careful who you pretend to be, because you are who you pretend to be."
Yes, 100%.
Interesting.
100%.
Yes.
And people don't realize that, and they, as a slippery slope, like, if you start acting like an asshole, man, like...
And that's one of my... I'm so glad we're bringing this up. Like, I was brought up that integrity is doing the right thing even when no one's looking.
Exactly.
Like, that's...
And I'm also a firm believer, and I think any of you who know me, if you guys have known me for a little while now, I don't believe in... I don't believe in saying something out loud that I won't say to a person.
Yeah, if you don't, if you wouldn't say to their face, then you shouldn't fucking say it.
Then you shouldn't say it.
Yeah, 100%.
And this is why I'm really glad. Last Plopcast, we did our fair share of DC bashing.
Yeah.
But someone intelligently, coherently, and very constructive thinking posted. I'm going to just say it. Logan Claus 444, dude. I appreciated you. I appreciated the conversation. He brought up some really good points, and it made me reconsider a couple of things.
What did he say? Do you have it?
Well, yeah, I've got it up right here. And there was actually a lot of different postings. There was a really good conversation. And basically that, I do badmouth DC. But then I always forget that maybe somebody answers to a higher power. Mm-hmm. So when I get angry about some of the decisions that have been made, and what they've done with some of my favorite creations and characters and that sort of thing, I always forget that, like, I don't know, maybe that you're owned by a larger corporation.
Yeah.
And maybe you've got, I don't know, stockholders to answer to. And maybe there are people that are signing your checks that are saying, you can't do that. It made me really kind of take my own opinion with a grain of salt.
You know what?
I thought that was really cool, and I wanted to thank you for that. Because instead of just, you're stupid, shut up.
Yeah.
Like this person, hey, maybe we need to talk about this instead. And
that
was really cool. It was really cool.
Yeah, go ahead.
On the other token, the other day we had somebody, like, you just made some stupid offhand comment where it's just like, this music sucks or something. But then you look at their fucking name and he's Vomitous Shit. And it's like vomitous shit is insulting my taste in music, and it's like, God, these user handles are so great. Like,
I also, I mean, personally for me, I think like things like Yelp are terrorist. Like Yelp is basically a terrorist organization, and they basically say if they have another corporation call you and say, hey, if you don't want us to say anything bad about you, why don't you hire us as your image consultant? And we work for Yelp. I mean, it's literally like Boardwalk Empire.
Yeah.
I mean, the thing is like when you're talking about people work for a corporation and like seeing the bigger picture, I think it does go back to Wildcats 3.0. I think that was the point of Wildcats 3.0, that we all have to make a moral choice in our lives. If we work for a corporation or a business, they're obviously making easy villains, like making a comic book company into an easy villain is not the truth.
Yeah.
Right.
But it points to a bigger picture of what's wrong.
Yeah.
Totally.
In other words, here's the thing. If you realize by reading that Marvel book that the best stuff that Marvel ever did, the reason it happened is because no one was looking.
Yeah.
That's how it happened.
Yes.
And
yes, 100%.
And that's when the great work comes through, is when, like, the 1970s, when the film industry was in disarray, so suddenly you got the greats like Scorsese and all that. Totally. Same thing in comics. You got these greats like Steve Gerber, and Marv Wolfman, and you got, like, Blade and Tomb of Dracula and Man-Thing and all these amazing, scary, weird...
So fun. And it almost reminded me of like old EC comics and
titles
like that.
They were saying, though, that's what they were saying, is like the reason they even started bringing up all that stuff was because the Comics Code finally let them and like let it go.
And when they published magazines, the magazines didn't have to use the Comics Code. So they could
do it in a magazine format.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm. So what I'm saying is, in a corporation, eventually the corporation, like, may make the decision, you know what? It's somewhat of a loss leader. Like, let's let them have ideas.
Right.
Yeah.
Because eventually they're going to come up with a great idea and we'll use that and make $1 billion in the movie.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
But that's okay. I mean, that's okay. I think the problem happens is when the ideas stop happening.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
When the ideas stop happening.
When it's just the corporate and you don't have the artists.
When it becomes a gimmick over...
Yeah.
When it becomes a gimmick over a story, and in the end, the only reason people read a book or a comic book is a story.
Yeah.
In the end, that's the reason why I'm picking up a title.
Yeah.
Not for...
Yeah, and when I'm pimping a title to you guys, I'm happy because there's choices.
Yeah.
There's choices.
And that's why I'm glad there's companies like Image and Dark Horse doing this stuff now. Like,
I'm frankly, I'm very happy. I'm extremely happy with what Marvel, is doing. I mean, these guys that are doing the independent stuff through Image are making their money at Marvel.
Yeah.
So they can go fund their projects.
And that's a great system.
And that's the way to do it. I mean, that's how any artist does it nowadays, is like you have to have multiple jobs to,
Would people buy East of West if Hickman hadn't become a hit on Fantastic Four?
Probably not.
No, they wouldn't have.
Yeah.
Because he has no name recognition.
And it's great because, too, it's like I love having independent people come in and do superheroes because they keep it weird.
I like it both. I like it working both ways.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm not a purist, and I think anyone who's a purist in this day and age is, frankly,
boring.
Should go to a Crosby, Stills and Nash concert.
Like I said, boring.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah. Well, it's like there's so many shades of gray. We all need to wake up, and it's not black and white, and
No, it isn't black and white, and I don't. So I'm really not.
And you really see that in the superhero comics these days.
Yeah,
too.
I'm really not into the bashing of companies and stuff because you just realize that these are just guys. They're doing their best.
Like, and that's what I kind of had to come down to. Like, I know that there isn't some dude who isn't. It sucks. It took me to like swallow my pride. I did, because like I have an opinion, and fuck you, that's my opinion, and I'm gonna stand by my opinion. But really, it really did come down to like, man, this guy made this decision not because he wanted to piss me off.
Yeah.
You know, I'm pretty sure there is a bean counter up there who like went, nope, this is a bad idea, we can't do it, and I'm really sorry about that. But I've got this dude that I answer to.
But the thing is, every time when I have a conversation, I've had many conversations with Danica about the Superman movie, so many that we don't even ever want to talk about it again. But but the thing is though, the only thing that's come from this, me having to be in this weird position of defending Superman, me, the guy with the crappy Batman tattoo from 1995, you know, like, it just is ironic. But every time someone brings up a point, I think about it.
Yeah.
They think about, well, the casualties didn't seem to be mentioned, and I think about it. Yeah. I think about, well, maybe, are they right?
Yeah.
You know, are they right? You know, and I think about it, and I said, no, they are right. The movie really wasn't very concerned with that, and I'm okay with that.
Right.
I still liked it. I mean,
that's okay though. But
I mean, because I told you about the authority.
Yeah.
Right.
See, so I come from, for me to come to the point where I like Superman, I am not a believer. Let me put it to you this way: I am not a believer that with superpowered beings existing in the world, that there won't be massive casualties anytime they get together.
Mm-hmm.
And the only hypocrisy I have found so far this summer over all these movies is Simon Pegg, who I love The World's End.
Right.
I love it because he rags on Superman and says like, oh my God, all these people dying and no one cares. And I'm like, didn't you star in that Star Trek 2 where they wiped out like half of San Francisco and nobody seemed to care?
Yeah.
And it goes, that is, I mean, what the real argument has to be is, what kind of superhero movies do we want to make?
Yeah.
Not the argument of like pointing fingers like, that one's got all this.
Right.
The death toll thing is like basically
every movie this summer has had a
I think the death toll is honestly because of comic book shame again.
Yeah.
And nobody wants to just go, well, we can't just make a Superman movie where he's benevolent.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You claim you want that movie, but I don't think you really do.
Well, I would, but it would not be directed by a big name director,
you know what I'm saying?
and it would be really fucking weird, you know?
I think we're at a position where comic book movies, because there's so many of them, we're going to start seeing some real classics.
Yeah.
We're going to see some horrible ones, but it's its own genre now in movies. So we're going to see like somebody like a Scorsese making, you know what I mean? Like someone's going to make
Why
a super
not?
movie.
I mean, you had Luc Besson doing Incredible Hulk, and you had Ang Lee trying to do Hulk, and maybe this is not such a good idea anymore. Now that we think about it,
can I go on record?
Maybe we should not get Scorsese or any of those guys.
I'm actually one of the few people who liked the first Hulk movie that Ang Lee did.
Really?
Yes, I did. I liked it. I did, because he was trying to do a comic book, and the whole thing was about his father and the abuse of his father and
gamma-radiated dogs.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's what I liked about the movie. Was I always liked that aspect of the Hulk origin, where it was about the abuse of his father fueling the type of creature he turns into.
I'm
not saying if I watched the movie again, I wouldn't go, you know what? It's not that good. But
Nick Nolte not playing a character, just himself.
Listen.
But here's the funny part, because you talk about, like, you look at all the remakes that are happening right now, and ad nauseum we could look at, talk about this. But you look at all the remakes and how much they rely on sequels right now, and there's no original ideas. I think that's why superhero films are thriving so much, because those are the original ideas right now in Hollywood.
Yeah.
And yes, it is based on source material, and yes, it is based on like this person's run on a character.
Well, it's based on
But I'm
just waiting for them to finally wake up and make Sleeper.
Hell yeah.
Into a movie.
What is
Hell
Sleeper?
yeah.
You never read Sleeper?
No.
Okay, Danica. I'm sorry, comic book girl. Comic book girl. That's my favorite comic book of all time.
Well, you've never told me that.
I could have sworn I told you about it.
I don't think you did.
Ed Brubaker, Sean Phillips. There's a story.
Do it.
It's people with superpowers, right? Mm-hmm. But they don't emphasize the superpowers. No one wears uniforms. The main guy is a guy who's put in deep cover with the worst people of the people who secretly run the world.
Yeah.
Whatever you want, whatever you.
The Illuminati, whatever.
The Bilderberg Group, whatever.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then the one person who puts him undercover, a guy who looks a lot like Nick Fury, gets shot and ends up in a coma. So nobody knows he's there. And he's stuck there between two warring sides. And it becomes, that's the ostensible plot. But it's really a story of, who am I? Who's the villain?
Right.
Yeah.
Who's the villain in a world where really everyone's a villain, and I just happen to be on that side, and you fall in love with... I mean, it's great. It's got a character named Miss Misery, who she gets her powers from doing bad things.
Yeah.
So if she starts doing good things, if she falls in love with you, she starts getting sick.
Yeah.
So she has to, like, kick an old man down the stairs, and then she gets power.
Yeah.
The main character, Sleeper, he gets this... He is able to absorb pain, but he can't feel anything. He can give pain and absorb pain, but he can't feel anything. So all the powers everyone has is based pretty much on their psychological state.
Yeah.
Oh, how cool.
It's my favorite comic book of all time.
I never thought of it. Like, no, I've read it, and that never occurred to me, like, the psychological state.
Because it works on, like, 3 levels. And that came out at the same time as Wildcats 3.0. And The Authority and
Planetary. You said that's 99-2000, right?
99-2000 was the last great era of comics.
We were just talking about that. We just watched Fight Club the other day, and that's 99. You know, it's like all these interesting ideas were coming out in 99. Isn't it strange that Fight Club
pretty much, the movie, not the book, the movie pretty much predicted 9/11.
Yeah. No, it was like you couldn't have done that.
The very end of the film is the Pixie song...
Where's my mind?
You know, where's my mind with buildings collapsing in front of a man who's looking at the future. And the future is the buildings collapsing.
Yeah, it would have been seen as a terrorist organization had the movie been made now.
Yeah, it would never
the movie never would have been made now.
Post 9/11, yeah.
And that movie, more than anything, growing up in the 90s, it's impossible to explain to kids now who've grown up in a post 9/11 world how people fought before then.
Yes.
Because it was a different world. It was a different world.
And Fight Club personifies it in a great way.
And did you hear they're doing a sequel? But
in the comics. That's amazing.
And it's Chuck Palahniuk, and he's writing a sequel to Fight Club, but it's going straight to comics.
Yeah.
He's not doing a book. They're not doing a movie.
You know what's funny is that Fight Club's one of my favorite movies, and I don't own it. Because I can't watch it.
I own like 3 Blu-ray versions
can't watch
of it,
all the
and
time.
you can have one.
I know, it's too influencing. It's too influencing.
Is that why?
It's too much. It's like I own a lot of movies, but for some reason that movie is just I can't explain it.
That's why.
It really gets you.
It feels like
I didn't watch it purposely for 10 years because it influences me too much.
Exactly. No, I think you're right. It was such a like game changer. I mean, I'm sorry. It's such a game changer for me. It like shattered. It shattered. Everyone in the 90s, like, everything was going wrong in the world. Like, Rwanda was happening. All these other things were happening. But in America, we were running everything up on credit. Yeah. And it was we were in this huge malaise period. And that's what to me, that Fight Club somehow captured that need to be something.
Well, I love that. I mean, Tyler Durden says it. He's like, you know, our war is a spiritual war. You know, and it's like, yes, it is. You're right.
Well,
like,
here's the funny part, because, like, for me, like, Fight Club is the psychological battle that you have, because you have Tyler Durden, and he's a made-up character, and it's like when Tyler's talking to Ed Norton.
Yeah.
And he's like, you know, I look the way you want, I dress the way you want to look, I fuck the way you really want to fuck, and it's so interesting because when Tyler Durden takes over, that's who he wants to be. He wants to be the best at everything. He wants to be that guy who gets noticed. But then the actual him, who keeps getting lost in Tyler Durden, actually embraces nihilism. It's this awesome, contradictory idea that, like, I want the best of the best. I want to be pretty. I want to look good. But while I'm trying to accomplish all of that, this other personality that's taking over, the other me, I don't care. But see,
to me, that's what the 90s were, and comics. That's why that was, in my opinion, the last sort of paradigm changing in comics. Everything since that time has followed from that.
You know, and it's so obvious too, because I mean, it's just like it's the turn of the century. Like it's so beautiful because now we have perspective on it. We can look back and see, like, wow, we really were thinking about a lot of future ideas, where we were going, all these things in 99.
Well, that's what I mean, and I honestly think that what happened after post 9/11 is we went, oh, thank God, we don't have to think about anything anymore.
I know.
I really believe that's what happened, because there's a movie that I love called The Good Shepherd with Matt Damon, where he is one of the founders of the CIA, and you follow him through the history of the CIA, and they're torturing a guy to get information about the Russians, and the guy goes, "Don't you know there is no?" He's basically telling him there is no Russian Empire.
Yeah.
Like, and then he throws himself out a window. And I realized that all that happened with 9/11 is with things like Fight Club, America, and we were all forced to look at ourselves, and that's what we were doing during that decade. And we were getting nihilistic and really getting sucked into the black hole. But 9/11 sort of again, oh guys, no, there's terrorists now.
Yeah, we're good
you don't
guys.
have to look at yourself
we're the good guys.
Yeah.
We're the good guys.
And I think and I do think that if anything, if there's anything that they totally missed in the Ultimates, as in the translation from the Ultimates from comic to film, is that Mark Millar was being very ironic. He was commenting on fascism. He was commenting on the fascism of the United States and making a joke of it. But when it went to movie form, that joke was lost, and it was straight, delivered straight. And so fascism, that whole fascistic idea, is very alive and well.
Yeah.
And so I mean, that's why when I said to you that's why I like movies like Superman and stuff, because I don't believe in the perfected ideal of the superhero at all. Yeah. And it's not because I don't like superheroes, but I've been reading them since I was 7. And as you mature, you realize that people flying around or people punching people aren't ever going to solve anything.
Yeah.
Inherently.
Yeah.
It's a power fantasy. Well, you said that.
That's a really cool idea for a comic, actually.
I did.
Let's not even go any further with that idea.
No, but I'm just saying, it's like there's things that can be done with, but the reason that every comic book that we've brought up today that we like and that we respond to are the comics that break the fourth wall and comment and are self-conscious and comment on comics.
That's what's going on right now, though, is because people are waking up to these systems in their lives, as well as in comics, as well as in movies, where, again, right now is a really, like, if you think about it, I like to look at cycles. If you think about it, the 1920s, everything fucking changed.
Yeah.
Up until that time, things were kind of weird, and I feel like that's what's happening right now, where it's like we're almost to the 1920s or the 2020s, and shit's gonna get really fucking weird. Mark my words, like shit's gonna change a lot, because right now we're definitely looking at from a higher perspective of what we're doing, what we are, what everything means, and you see that in art. And that's just it's really interesting.
I think the cycles are speeding up, though.
Oh my God, time is speeding up.
I think they're happening faster.
They are. It's the singularity.
Because of technology, because of
communication.
I think comics, evolution, everything is cycling faster. It used to be like 30-year.
Oh no, it is
30 now 20. Now we're not even making that.
No, it's the singularity. Yeah. I don't know if you're familiar with Ray Kurzweil, the futurist guy, but I mean, it's like, you're going to get to a point where it's like, oh, you're going up, like this with technology, and it's exponential, and there's a part where it's just going to go up. Yes. Like, it's just, and that's where we're headed towards, like, very quickly. I mean, time is speeding up. I think
we're kind of already there. We just can't believe it.
Yeah.
Like,
it's hard to deal with. I mean, it'll mess you up, man. It's like, it's a big change.
Well, no, but I also notice in these times where technology and all this stuff, all these changes are happening, more and more people are going towards a sort of Luddite type of vibe. Yeah. Do you know what I mean?
Well, I mean, when you have things like fucking Honey Boo Boo and fucking Kim Kardashian, that's, like that's what's making. I mean, and that's what I've noticed too. It's like it seems like in our, there's two types of people these days. It's just like people who don't want to know, and they're just like fuck, and I just want to fucking be my consumer, do my consumer shit, because it's hard to question yourself and to question your reality and to question everything. And then there's the other people who are thoughtful, and they're like, wait a minute, like, this shit's fucked up, and it's very much becoming an idiocracy in a lot of ways. Like, I feel like there's a big rift,
It's getting worse.
There's
I'm sorry. I had to,
smart people,
shut
more
up
stupid
because
people. There's more rich people, there's more poor people. It's very...
No, it's not that it's getting worse. It's just that things are evolving past your ability to understand them. Like, in other words...
You're right. I cannot understand what kind of person fucking watches these shows. I can't.
I know.
Oh, my God. I hate... this is something that I actually give time and energy to. I hate that I know who the Kardashians are. And here's the thing. I don't watch their show. I don't care. Like, if entertainment, any of that stuff comes on, I turn it off. I hate the fact they have permeated our freaking culture in such a way that I can't get away from them. And for them, I mean, kudos to them, because that's what they were trying to do.
It's worse than this. People looking from the outside think that's all that we care about.
That's all we care about. And I don't give a fuck. Kanye, suck my dick. I don't like you. Kardashians, I hate you.
But
like,
see,
I just can't stand it. And I lose it. Like, I'm sorry, I had to be quiet for this entire conversation. Because when the Honey Boo Boos and stuff like that, like, I've never seen a show, but if I flip on the internet, there's a goddamn meme. You know, it's like, I can't deal with it.
You don't watch the show, but you still know she was pregnant, and you still know she had a baby.
I don't know any of that stuff. I don't know any of that stuff.
And that's what I'm saying.
It's
like,
in the air.
I try to get away from it,
and it's hard.
And there it is. It's like.
Yeah. The truth of the matter is, like, what I've been reading lately. I've been reading the Gnostic Gospels, and
that's some heavy shit. And that's some heavy shit.
No,
man.
because I'm really into this whole idea of that we are surrounded by all these things and these technologies and all this stuff, but things really haven't changed that much.
Yeah.
The truth of the matter is so much of what we're doing is an illusion, is a fantasy, is not really real. It's and that's really what they were trying to get to in Fight Club.
Right.
Yeah. Something real. Because everyone knew that they were being bombarded.
Well, and getting punched in the face is about as real as it gets.
But an illusion, but I mean, yes, but an illusion. As a society, we create these illusions and these honey boo boos and stuff, and whatever you want to call it. We create these things as sort of a diversion from everything else that's really happening in the world. And something like a September 11th, that's like, that shit's real. You can't ignore that. Mm-hmm. But as time's gone on, then the more chatter that happens, the more we like. Well, frankly, the more we worry about who. The girl with feathered hair on the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. It's like the more we worry about that and get sucked into this sort of
bullshit,
infotainment illusion, it's kind of it's kind of like you have the idea of like, does God exist or did we create God?
Right.
Yeah.
And in essence, that's sort of.
Well, it's both.
I think it's a little bit of both.
It is.
And it's sort of like in the comics that we've talked about today, and the ones that we seem to respond to seem to be very aware.
Yeah.
Of.
Awareness is a new thing these days for people. I think
gnosis, but the term gnosis means knowledge, inner knowledge.
Yeah.
And I think most of the comics, for some reason, comics in particular seem to be great at this.
Yeah.
Are people looking for that?
Yeah. Definitely. Well, that's the thing.
Yeah, I mean, I like the fact that they are searching out those readers.
Yeah.
Like, I like the fact that they are putting out something like that or telling that story where it's like, this is who I want reading my stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
well,
like,
it's always it's always attracted people who have tasted despair, and depression and self-doubt and all these outcasts and things like that. And
I wouldn't know about that.
None of us do. None of us here.
Yeah.
But I mean, it does speak to people who are looking for more, who have seen the darkness, and they're like, there's got to be something else, and there's and I know that you're just trying to find something,
Yeah, I'm actually, surprisingly, I might not feel this way tomorrow, but I'm actually really hopeful about where everything's going.
I am too.
I think that there's a lot.
Well, I think that we affect things, and if we have if we all think negatively, then that's what's going to happen. If we all think positively, then that's what's going to happen. I feel like that really, we don't talk about that, but I mean, I feel like it's a real powerful thing that we don't really harness as much as we should.
Yeah, because if you say be positive, then someone wants to smack
punch you in the face. Yeah. And I get that, and I get people, when Tyson tells me to quit being mean or upset or something, then it just makes me more upset. I mean, I get it, but we have to rise above it anyways. We gotta fucking.
I'm trying.
We're all trying because we're humans.
We're creating. Plopcasts.
If you're saying perception is reality, if you perceive that things are going well, then they probably will.
Yes.
Yeah.
If you perceive they're going bad.
Then they probably will. Yes.
Yeah. It's like The Secret, but without all that bullshit about getting a free bike.
Yeah.
If you wish.
Yeah. Well, it's like my fucking chiropractor was telling me. He was like, all summer I've been working really hard getting my back going, and it's been really good. My back's been great for all summer, and then I fucked it up, and then I'm back to square one, and it's it's depressing, and you're just like, I've worked for 2 months, and now I'm right back to where I started, and I hurt every single day, and it feels like I'm getting stabbed in the back, and I just want to fucking die. And he's like, I see it. you're getting depressed about it. Like, you're getting despair. Like, don't do that because that's going to make it worse. He's like, you have to be fucking positive about it. So, I've tried to be positive about it. I fucking did some serious fucking back stretches today while listening to some Wagner.
Yeah.
You know? Like, I was like...
Wagner, the anti-Semite.
Well, I was listening to the Tristan and Isolde prelude from Melancholia that I like so much. And
no, he's amazing. But that goes back to, like, you should never meet your art. You should never meet the people that whose art you love.
100%. But it was helping me. It was such a powerful song that it was making me feel like I could feel my muscles moving and trying to stretch things and it hurt, but you're doing it anyways, and you know it's gonna make you better. And I don't know.
Anyway, we need to wrap this up.
Okay, so let's do a.
I think we got a lot.
Just talk about.
Okay.
Everything, and if reality is real or not.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah. So we've just covered it all.
Come on, man. Isn't it obvious?
So that's it for our Plopcast number 10 today. Thank you so much, Kirk and D-Dawg Darren, for coming aboard.
Thanks, buddy. This is fun.
It's been a fun train ride, and we will see you in a couple of weeks. Over and out.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
All right.